Welcome everyone. Understanding and determining critical position in organization. This is the premises of today's presentation in this video. So we'll understand vital position of an organizations and we need to classify which position are critical, which position are important, without which the smooth operation of the organization becomes a big question mark. So let us understand with the types as prioritizing the work, the process. So exactly what is our overall objective vision? Which are the issues that needs to be focused? Because if we are not focusing on those issues, probably we will not be achieving our vision, perhaps. And that is what we need to understand. Given our resources and economic realities, what are the objectives that we would love to accomplish and in what basis? Objective number one first, then probably the second, then probably the third. If we can prioritize this thing, this will help us to ascertain whether we are going on the right path as far as organizational capabilities and objectives are concerned. Now, there is a balancing act that needs to be taken care for. Why? Because at times the organization goals does not mix very well with the community goals. Now we need to keep everyone on our team, right? So we cannot ignore the community, the society, the various stakeholders. So taking those things into considerations, we need to ensure that we have a balancing act of not only managing the individual goals, the community goals, the other stakeholder goals, and also the organization objective thereby. So we're talking about leadership concerns, we're talking about business investment concerns. When I say business investment concern is the flow of funds and how do we manage the flow of fund without any hindrance. Community concerns and local government concern as the regulatory authority that keeps on coming around here. Priority identification, and how do we go off the priority identification? First and foremost thing is we need to extrapolate what has happened in the past and extrapolate to the future. So based upon that, we can come up with the priorities as which are more important. We just cannot, at times certain stakeholders importance gets pivotal or very vital, so we just cannot ignore certain stakeholders, ensuring that they are on our bandwagon, they are on our team. We should be prioritizing their goals first, and that can only be done after assessing the past studies. Then comes the employer opinion, perhaps. Now, employer opinion or the key task leaders is the vision that they look into it, their values, their cultures, their ethos, their practices that they want to espouse. We need to understand them and probably proceed with the process altogether. Yes, we're talking about the focus groups, the community surveys, as the case might be, as in ignoring any of the stakeholders will actually jeopardize the operation of the organization, and that is something which we cannot risk at all. A workshop, a retreat, as the case might be. So let us look into the local development priorities, perhaps. Is the first thing and foremost thing is to provide information to the leaders that they can have a holistic perspective, a realistic perspective, a realistic understanding as to what are the problems that an organization faces in case the local sentiments are ignored. So structure a workshop environment to effectively identify the priorities for the community, sensitize them, educate them, make them a part of your stakeholders, make them a part of your community, make them a part of your teamwork, and you will see things will proceed much faster and much quicker. So, rank priorities to determine the relative importance of each job. Let us move to setting goals and measurable outcomes. Remember, goals and outcomes needs to be fixed in terms of number, because until and unless you are able to measure goals, you're not able to manage them. So first and foremost thing is setting goals and the outcomes thereby. Now, how do we go from goals and outcomes? It is from issues to goals, from issues to goals. Now, every time I say issues, that it means impediments. Every time I say goals, it means end objective as per se. So issues and problems tends to be negative in nature. They are questions that looking for the answer. Did I say impediments? These are the issues. These are the problems. How do we proceed with it? How do we mitigate the situation? How do we make certain that every problem, every perspective of the stakeholders are taken into consideration, and probably they are in our fold and proceeding with the overall organizational goals. So issues are actually problems that we are trying to answer, whereas goals are the answers to the problem. These are the positive statement. Now, how do we look into those goals? We need to understand if there are issues and how does it impact negatively for the community, and positive impact needs to be extracted out of it. And that is what the desirable condition of goals are all about it. So start an action development plan with problem and their causes, and convert this into opportunities, convert this into a strategic plan. Make sure that the goal becomes a win-win situation and acceptable to every one of the stakeholders. So let us understand with the goal. State the vision that is more specific than the broader vision, as in what we are looking for it. At times what happens, visions becomes too broad and people do get confused altogether, or if not confused, people would love to love to left to interpret the vision as per their understanding, which might not be true. So can we narrow it down? Can we be very specific? Remember, goals are generally not measured. Why? Because this is just the purpose of the outcomes, giving you a fixations of what exactly we are trying to achieve, and probably we are trying to overextend or overachieve the goal that we have already promised ourselves or set it for together. Use a time reference. Use certain point of references in terms of quality of living. Let's say if your quality of living can be improved upon it, people will start cooperating. Use a frame of reference in the form of time frame, given that fact that if there are certain activities that the organization is pursuing which is detrimental to the daily life. Let's say they're having an infrastructure construction in terms of road building, instruction of overbridge, instruction of construction of railways. And there are infrastructure construction that has been talking around it. And every time there's an infrastructure issue, people are going to face problem because they might not be able to continue with their daily life in a in the most easiest of fashion because of these construction activities on the infrastructure facility. Now, if you can give a time frame where the community has been understood that this problem will be solved within next 6 months, within next 9 months, probably they will have a peace of mind and they will understand that okay, it's good to cooperate with them, because as long as this infrastructure facilities comes up, after this the life of will become much more smoother than the previous life that they were experiencing. So they will not mind the pain for next 6 to 9 months perhaps. But if this 6 to 9 months get extended to 6 years or 9 years, people might get frustrated for this infrastructure development that has been going around. So give a frame of reference in decision making, and it should always be very realistic as far as economic reality is concerned. Clearly state concisely and explicitly what can be done and how it has been done there. Goal example issues identify avenues for new businesses. Definitely, yes, for the industry. Goal can be how to capitalize upon the opportunities as per said. Action, prioritize the steps so as to achieve the objectives time and again. Absolutely simple, straightforward. You need to mention it out. What are we talking about it? I'm just giving you an example of goals. Goals can be the organization has to have ample amount of money to execute uh, its programs, its projects, its action plan, whatever it is striving to achieve. The organization is flushed with money. The organization will not have any dearth of money as far as resources are concerned. So outcome. If the money is available plentifully in the hands of the organization, what is the outcome that we look into it? Did I have already given you an example of 6 months of 9 months of infrastructure development, right? So within the next 12 months, the executive board will raise approximately $1 million, both from public and private sectors, for the funding of the organization. Now that is the outcome that can comes around it. One another outcome based goals. So this was an example of outcome. Previously, it was all about the goal that we have set around it. Now, let us come into the execution part or the strategic action part. The board will appoint a committee to design and implement a one-year funding campaign using local volunteers. Now, this is where the strategic action will take places as far as raising $1 million. Now, it is only using local communities, it is only using local participation and volunteers to raise the money, perhaps. Now, let me I have given you an example of goal based performances. Now, let us talk about the outcome based performances. Outcomes are always driven by result, the end result I'm talking around it. So, and strategic planning would be the execution part as to how will you achieve the result? What are the paths? What are the means that you will adopt to achieve the result? Strategic action planning is nothing but wherein the top management, the middle management, the lower rung of employees, or should I say, the whole of an organization comes to a conclusion that certain issues needs to be uh, dissected, needs to be solved, needs to be approached in an amicable fashion. So there is a certain sense of understanding throughout the organization, and that is what leadership consensus is all about. It when we talk about those issues, how can we mitigate them? How can we convert those issues into an opportunities for the organization? Then comes the strategic action. This is nothing but the execution of the work that comes around it. Now, frequently every community sticks to the familiar ideas because that is what they have been leading their life with. They have seen their forefathers working around it and staying with that course of action. But can we sensitize them with the new approaches? Can we educate them with the new approaches, and how it is going to facilitate their living standard? So we need to think out of box. We need to focus on facilitation, research, and outside expertise. Now, this is where the strategic action would come around it. This is where the people need to be educated in terms of availability of resources, potential impact, the goals, the what is going to happen with the environment, and how does it helps them in achieving an overall growth in every sphere of their life. And I'm talking about every sphere for all of the stakeholders, the vendors, the shareholders, the community, the employees, the customers, and so on and so forth. So essentially, strategic action is all about that words that lack accountability, such as promote, encourage, focus on. Now, what am I trying to do? These are all your verbs to a particular of the stakeholders. If you take community, promote community participation, encourage community alignment, focus on the community. If I'm talking about, let's say, shareholders, promote shareholders wealth, encourage shareholders investment, focus on the shareholders dividends income. If we look into, these are just verbs, and I'll repeat those words as promote, encourage, focus, pursue, enhance, review, continue to use, study, collaborate with. And this is exactly what strategic action is all about. It if you can write it down one at a time, you will come to understanding of what exactly has been meant out here. So with this, the strategic action, once strategic action has been decided upon, what is the work, how will you proceed around it, things becomes much more easier for the organizations to run. So evaluate the action, as in who is doing what, who is responsible for what kind of job. What is the amount of money that it is going to cost? It is not only the amount of money that we looking should into account. It is the amount of time that needs to be certain. It is the amount of effort or resources that it is going to consume needs to be figured out. So we are looking out here everything in terms of money, in terms of resources, in terms of time frame, and what will be the outcomes, overall outcomes in benefit. How will we measure our progress? So writing and communicating the strategic plan draft, how do we go around it? As simple as it is. First and foremost thing is assessment. Who are we? Are we a part of which stakeholders? Are we a part of a community? Are we a part of an organization? Are we a part of our employees? Are we a part of our customers? Are we part of a vendor? Accordingly, vision statement, who do we want to become? And how do we want to become is what we are looking into. How is your goals? Where do you want to go? What are the issues, strategies? How do we get there? Evaluate what get measures can get managed, can get done. So writing the communicating strategic plan draft by addressing very simple five questions as to who are we, what do we want to become, where do we want to go, how do we get there, and what get measures get done. So let me give you the format of goals and action as it should be. First and foremost is the measurable outcomes. Now, this is where the outcomes we are talking around it, and this can be applied to any of the projects, any of the communities, any of the organization, any of the companies, be it non NGOs, be it a profitable organization. So first and foremost thing is your responsible organization. You need to mention it out. Then you'd have to figure out the amount of money that has been involved, where the money has been coming from. What is your source of funding? Yeah, are you taking it on a loan? Is it a debt? Is it just been funded by the federal government? Is it a social initiative? Is it a community initiative? No, you need to go around it. You need to give me the time frame. You need to understand what are the probable outcomes that is going to be that is going to be coming out of the project. Performance to measures and so on and so forth is what we are looking forward there. Each action, strategic action, requires clearly identified organizations to take on the implementation. Each organization in the plan needs to buy in to its role in the implementation. A overview, remember, an overview group will always help you to monitor the person, the group, the leaders who can keep a tab on the things, as far as money is involved, as far as time frame is involved, as far as operational issues are involved, as far as compliance issues from the regulatory authority is involved. These will help you to coordinate and implement the implementation among the organization. So essentially speaking, we are looking into strategic plan which is long term, which is known as strategic, and then short term, which I call it operational. For your understanding, I have mentioned it is a work plan as the case might be. Right. So strategic planning is anything which is on a long-term basis, on 3 to 5 years, and anything which is less than 365 days is work plan. Strategic plan is always goal-oriented, whereas work plan, or should I say operational plan, is result-oriented. Result, you need to get it, you need to figure out, you need to feel the result in due courses of time. Goal-oriented, you are in the process of achieving the goals, which might take a longer version to realize, perhaps. So strategic plans are general strategies, specific work plans are specific strategies, as in day in, day out strategies. What are you doing around it? Since strategic plans are goal oriented, long term, it is basically improving your quality of your competitive position, wherein the operational plan or the work plan is all about the existing situation and how are you mitigating the existing problem per se. So let us talk about the analyzing plans. I started this particular video with prioritization, and that is what it is all about. It your priorities. How do you figure out how, based on your priorities, will be allocating your resources, your manpower, your machineries, your monies, your network, your liaising abilities, your compliance with the local resolution, local governance. So we need to keep them things, and remember, planning is something which need not be fixed at all. Planning, on the other hand, should be vibrant, should be dynamic, should be changing, should be flexible. Make the basic plan or the program as a case might be, which I've already stated. So, it's planning, the strategic planning should not be fixated, and you cannot come up with a outcomes or a goal which is absolutely written on the stone. We need to be flexible. We need to ensure that we are moving ahead of the time, along with the time, probably thinking futuristic, but at the same time not hurting the sentiments and not probably putting people into uncomfortable position. So yes, no matter how good the vision is all about it, we should not, if let's say the vision is excellent but the community participation is not very cordial, so it don't try to keep that excellent vision which has been proven elsewhere in the a different part of the world. So in this particular community, that if you look into it, if it is not in 3 to 5 years that your vision will be achieved, your goal will be achieved, it might be achieved in 7 to 9 years time. So okay, it is okay to elongate the time frame. So it is okay not to rock the boat. It is okay to have everyone on board before you actually achieve the goal. So first and foremost thing, strategic plan should be indicative, and you should not have a fixation about it. You should always be flexible. Strategic plans, we need to understand what is required is the completion of the process successfully, moving with every check boxes, marking every check boxes. It can be from 6 to 9 months, reasonable cost, local participation, which I keep on hampering around, should be of immense cooperation. Local participation should be maximized. Now, meaningful involvement of stakeholders or perhaps the leaders, recruitment of leaders to champion the process. Yes, carefully, absolutely carefully looking for the steering committees, ensuring that every representations from every stakeholders is being taken into consideration. Use of local coordinators to process moving and so on and so forth. Judicious use of outside facilitators and periodic review of appropriate adjustment. And this will ensure your statics plan is immensely successful. With this, I come to an end of this video. Thank you for watching this video till the very end.